Welcome to the Stop and Think series. I'm Will Markham. It's a series dedicated to training not on what to think, but how to think, so that you can dissect all the BS on your own. And lesson number 6 is on astroturfing, systematic corporate deception. Now, what is astroturfing? Well, here's an example for you.
Consider this fictitious example that's inspired by real life. Say you're watching the news and you see a story about a new study on the cholesterol-lowering drug called Cholextra. The study says Cholextra is so effective that doctors should consider prescribing it to adults and even children who don't yet have high cholesterol. Is it too good to be true? You're smart, you decide to do some of your own research. You do a Google search, you consult social media, Facebook and Twitter, you look at Wikipedia, WebMD, a nonprofit website, and you read the original study in a peer-reviewed published medical journal. It all confirms how effective Cholextra is. You do run across a few negative comments and a potential link to cancer, but you dismiss that because medical experts call the cancer link a myth and say that those who think there is a link there are quacks and cranks and nuts. Finally, you learned that your own doctor recently attended a medical seminar. The lecture that he attended confirmed how effective Cholextra is, so he sends you off with some free samples and a prescription. You've really done your homework. But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion. A Truman Show-esque alternate reality all around you. Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role. Surreptitious astroturf methods are now more important to these interests than traditional lobbying of Congress. There's an entire industry built around it in Washington. What is astroturf? It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. AstroTurf is when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves and publish blogs, start Facebook and Twitter accounts, publish ads, letters to the editor, or simply post comments online to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement is speaking. The whole point of AstroTurf is to try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not. AstroTurf seeks to manipulate you into changing your opinion by making you feel as if you're an outlier when you're not.
Pause for a moment. Did you catch what she said? She said there's an entire astroturfing industry in Washington. An entire industry devoted to creating artificial fact. Through Google, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, letters to the editor, Wikipedia, even WebMD, even peer-reviewed published medical journals, and even to fool your own doctor. And it's all to make their artificial fact more prevalent than the reality, so that the reality and all those who believe it are crazy. And how does it do that? Well, let's continue, shall we?
A few weeks later, there was a huge scandal when Wikipedia officials got caught offering a PR service that skewed and edited information on behalf of paid, publicity-seeking clients in utter opposition to Wikipedia's supposed policies. All of this may be why, when a medical study looked at medical conditions described on Wikipedia pages and compared it to actual peer-reviewed published research, Wikipedia contradicted medical research 90% of the time. You may never fully trust what you read on Wikipedia again, nor should you. Let's now go back to that fictitious Cholextra example and all the research you did. It turns out the Facebook and Twitter accounts you found that were so positive were actually written by paid professionals hired by the drug company to promote the drug. The Wikipedia page had been monitored by an agenda editor also paid by the drug company. The drug company also arranged to optimize Google search engine results, so it was no accident that you stumbled across that positive nonprofit that had all those positive comments. The nonprofit was, of course, secretly founded and funded by the drug company. The drug company also financed that positive study and used its power of editorial control to omit any mention of cancer as a possible side effect. Once more, each and every doctor who publicly touted Cholextra, or called the cancer link a myth, or ridiculed critics as paranoid cranks and quacks, or served on a government advisory board that approved the drug, each of those doctors is actually a paid consultant for the drug company. As for your own doctor, the medical lecture he attended that had all those positive evaluations was, in fact, like many continuing medical education classes, sponsored by the drug company.
They hire fake people writing fake praising articles. They hire fake doctors giving it high praises. The scientific studies were funded by the corporation, and even the nonprofit organization was funded by the corporation. Now you might be thinking, wait, what about the investigative journalists or the whistleblowers?
AstroTurfers seek to controversialize those who disagree with them. They attack news organizations that publish stories they don't like, whistleblowers who tell the truth, politicians who dare to ask the tough questions, and journalists who have the audacity to report on all of it.
But wait, what about the fact-checking sites?
AstroTurfers often claim to debunk myths that aren't myths at all. Use of the charged language tests well. People hear something's a myth, maybe they find it on Snopes, and they instantly declare themselves too smart to fall for it. But what if the whole notion of the myth is itself a myth, and you and Snopes fell for that?
All right, let's stop and think for a moment. With all of the mass prevalence of this astroturfing, do you really think that Snopes is going to side with a small number of people that are frequently labeled crackpots or conspiracy theorists? Or do you think that Snopes is going to side with a large number of falsified scientific studies, of fake doctors, of fake opinion articles, and official public relations statements by the corporation repeated over and over on the news? And now, once you've figured out this, you know why these fact-checking sites are the AstroTurfers' best friends. So Snopes is the corporatocracy's little McBitch. Now let's fast forward to something more current, like the 2016 election. Now keep in mind that this lesson will not be talking about the voting machines, or the smear campaigns, or the assassinations. It's just going to be focused on the astroturfing. Now your first task as an astroturfer is to hire crowds. Always, always hire crowds. Because the last thing you want are your crowds booing. Also, to make sure that your crowds look bigger than they actually are. Concentrate everyone into a small gated area and zoom in the camera if you need to. Then make sure that every single newspaper and TV station state how the crowds were huge. I cannot stress this enough that you need to hire crowds, because this is what happens when you don't.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Oh, no.
Now, if in emergency situations where your crowds are insufficient, just Photoshop and multiply them. Task number 2, hide your opponent's crowds. You must avoid revealing your opponent's crowd sizes at all costs, especially not on TV. It's best to not cover any of their rallies at all, not one. And when the networks are forced to mention your opponent, ensure that the narrative is that he is unelectable. Push the unelectable narrative. In fact, give him effectively no coverage whatsoever except to say that he's unelectable. And if your opponent happens to win those debate focus groups, be sure to broadcast loud and clear on every single pundit that your candidate is the winner of the debate. Task number 3, dominate all media. It's not enough to dominate the airwaves, newspapers, and celebrity endorsements. You must also dominate everything online, starting with the Facebook and Twitter trending section. Make sure your candidate is always trending. And if your rivals ever show up, delete them immediately. Oh, and don't forget Google.
For those of you keeping score at home, Google is still manipulating search results. If you type in Hillary Clinton is to the Bing search engine, it recommends Hillary Clinton issues, Hillary Clinton is a lying crook, Hillary Clinton is a murderess, which I didn't even know that was a word. Over on Yahoo, they recommend Hillary is a liar, Hillary is evil, and Hillary Clinton is the Antichrist. But if you use the old Google machine, they recommend Hillary Clinton Israel, Hillary Clinton is winning, Hillary Clinton is awesome, and that is it. That is all they know about Hillary Clinton. Google has all of human knowledge at its fingertips, and it just knows Hillary is awesome.
Task number 4, silencing your critics. Locate the media sources that are critical of your candidate and buy them out. Have them start producing propaganda that is favorable to your candidate. Repeat this step as necessary for other publications. It's not enough for you to deny your opponent the ability to publish on any established news source. You must also deny them their own news sources as well. Task number 5. Hire your own online army. The fact-checking sites will bend to your will to declare you the most honest or the most qualified. But your opponent's strength lies in social networks and not in indoctrination. You must therefore hire your own AstroTurf army online to rival their grassroots army. And give yourself a fact-checking title like Correct the Record. Reach out to the group administrators and see if they can be corrupted. Alternatively, you can co-opt the group admins so you can herd those in the groups like sheep to your candidate. If this can't be done, you can always try shutting down their social networks by any means necessary. Task number 6, inflate everything. Make sure that every poll is carefully crafted to show you in a very strong lead. And if you need to, just make shit up and broadcast it anyway. Assume that all the superdelegates will vote for you and add them all into your huge lead. And if your opponent happens to win a lot of states, don't announce them.
Here's the Wall Street Journal. Bernie Sanders gets no respect. And just listen to this. Bernie Sanders won 3 Western Democratic caucuses by landslides on Saturday. And all he got was this lousy Associated Press headline. Sanders wins 3 states. Clinton holds delegate lead.
And if for some reason your opposition is finding discrepancies between the exit polls and any other kind of polls you're taking, just cancel the exit polls. Task number 7, fighting resistance.
And most of all, astroturfers tend to reserve all of their public skepticism for those exposing wrongdoing rather than the wrongdoers.
So if anyone tries to expose you, conduct a swift and severe smear campaign against them. Hold nothing back. Create conspiracy theories if you must, and mass spread it on every single network. So to finish up this lesson, how can you tell between a real grassroots movement or protest versus an AstroTurf movement or protest? Now you have to keep in mind that there are 2 types of AstroTurf protests. There's the hired type of AstroTurf, and then there's the corporate sponsored and organized type of AstroTurf. And the way you can tell between the grassroots and the AstroTurf is by the oligarchy's reaction to the movement. Are they met with applause and celebration? Or are they met with pepper spray and handcuffs? That finishes up this lesson on astroturfing, and be sure to comment with your thoughts and insights.
I mean, look at this. Look at it! A world built on fantasy. Synthetic emotions in the form of pills. Psychological warfare in the form of advertising. Mind-altering chemicals in the form of food. Brainwashing seminars in the form of media. Controlled, isolated bubbles in the form of social networks. Real? You want to talk about reality? We haven't lived in anything remotely close to it since the turn of the century. We turned it off, took out the batteries, snacked on a bag of GMOs while we tossed the remnants in the ever-expanding dumpster of the human condition. We live in branded houses, trademarked by corporations, built on bipolar numbers, jumping up and down on digital displays, hypnotizing us into the biggest slumber mankind has ever seen. You have to dig pretty deep, kiddo, before you can find anything real. We live in a kingdom of bullshit, a kingdom you've lived in for far too long.